I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You'll notice they have lots of badges. Just to remind everybody, we do have a court reporter here. When you stand to speak, if you'll clearly spell your name for her so she gets it down correctly and speak clearly. This time I'm going to read the rules for conducting the annual town meeting. This meeting will be conducted by requirements of state law and by Robert's Rules of Order. Proposed resolutions must be in writing and copies presented to the town clerk by Tuesday, March 1st, 2012, and additional copies available for distribution to those in attendance at the annual town meeting. Each speaker is allowed a total of 3 minutes to address themselves to the subject of the meeting. Voting will be by voice vote. If a vote is in doubt, voters will hold up their voter's card. Everybody got a card when they came in. This time I'd like a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice. I believe everybody has a copy. Any discussion? If not, like a voice vote, all those voting in favor of waiving the reading of the legal notice signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against say nay. At this time, I'd like a motion to waive the reading of the roll call.
So moved.
Second.
Bud Codlanese, who was the second on that? Here. Any discussion on that by anybody? If not, we'll vote on it. All those signify, say aye in favor of waiving the reading of the roll call. Aye. All those opposed? At this time, I'll take nominations for moderator of the meeting.
I'd like to nominate Gary Grasso as moderator of the meeting.
Is your name?
Mark Thoman, Thoman.
Is there a second?
Second. Rick Miles.
Are there any other nominations?
I'd like my name is Carol Soul. I would like to nominate Julie for moderator.
Could you spell the name, please? No, I know it.
Julia Kennedy.
Pardon me? Beckman? And second?
Kim Sayers.
Are there any other nominations? All right, at this time, can I get a nomination to close the nominations? Motion to close.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor of closing the nomination signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, nominations are closed. At this time, all those in favor of Gary Grasso, please stand. Okay. All right, sit. All those in favor of Ms. Beckman, please stand. Okay. Gary Grasso is the moderator. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of moderator to Downers Grove Township annual meeting, so help you God?
I do.
Stand up for me.
Good evening. As moderator, I appoint Alan Alonji as a parliamentarian. And as moderator, I appoint Bob Grogan as sergeant at arms. It's my pleasure to read a statement about the history of township government, just to give everybody some perspective of why we're here tonight. It's a little bit of a lengthy statement, but I'll get through it as quickly as I can. Township government was founded in the United States in 1636, and it is a government that is pure democracy. Today, the township government is functional in 85 of the 102 Illinois counties. Pierce Downer, from whom it derived its name, settled Downers Grove Township in 1832. The principal villages of this township were Hinsdale, Downers Grove, Clarendon Hills, and Fullersburg. Today we have Hinsdale, Clarendon Hills, Willowbrook, Burr Ridge, Westmont, Darien, Downers Grove, and parts of Lamont and Woodridge. Townships serve 8 million Illinois residents. All townships hold town meetings on the second Tuesday of April, and it's open to all township residents to address community concerns. We have 8 elected township officials, and they are Supervisor Frank Worcester, Highway Commissioner Andy Anderson, the Assessor Terry Cockrell, the Clerk Diane Kunishek, Trustees are Bill Swanston, Bob Del Sardo, Rita Carlson, and Kathy Abate. We have a total of 38 employees working for the township, 31 full-time and 7 part-time. The assessor has 12 full-time and 4 part-time employees. The highway commissioner has 10 full-time and 2 part-time employees, and the supervisor has 8 full-time and 2 part-time employees. A short version of the primary responsibilities and duties of each officer are: the supervisor is the chief executive officer of the township and serves as supervisor of general assistance, human services, and chairman of the township board. The supervisor is the treasurer of all township funds, including cemetery funds, and is the ex-official treasurer of the road and bridge funds. Highway commissioner. The highway commissioner has general charge of the 70 miles of unincorporated roads in the Downers Grove Township area. In addition to the repair and upkeep of the roads and bridges, the highway commissioner has an annual brush pickup. Townships maintain 1/2 of all road miles in Illinois. The assessor. The office of township assessor is one of the most important and least understood of all township offices. The assessor does not assess taxes. The office does appraise property and place value on it according to formulas set by the Illinois Department of Revenue. It is for taxes levied according to these property values as appraised by the township assessor that units of local government, including townships, receive their income. The assessors are also required to undergo formal training to qualify for the position. They also provide door-to-door service, which is unique to township government, the government next door. The clerk. The clerk is the keeper of the township's records, the clerk of all township meetings, and the ex officio clerk for the highway commissioner. The clerk is to keep keep minutes of all town meetings and township board meetings. Trustees. The trustees are the legislative arm of the township, setting policy and procedure for the township supervisor to administer. The trustees are critical to the proper functioning of the township. They have major roles in auditing township bills, attending to annual budgeting and levy responsibility, spending township funds, compensating township officers, appointing fire protection district trustees, and many other township functions. The township is required or mandated to do the following functions: general assistance, property assessment, and road and bridge maintenance. Some additional services are youth services, senior citizen programs, cemetery care, and mosquito abatement, just to name a few. We at Downers Grove Township teach between 4,000 and 5,000 middle school students life skill classes. Downers Grove Township has two cemeteries, Oak Hill and Oak Crest. All of the lots at Oak Hill have been sold, but lots are still available in Oak Crest, where the first woman senator, Lottie O'Neill, is buried. Our township has been the caretaker since 1985. I'd like right now to introduce to you our township board. Supervisor Frank Worcester. Clerk Diane Kunicek. Assessor Terry Cocker. Highway Commissioner Lawrence Andy Anderson. And our trustees, William Swanston, Robert Del Sardo, Rita Carlson, and Kathleen Abate. At this time, I would like a motion to waive the reading of the minutes from last year's meeting as copies were distributed.
So moved. Second.
Moved. Who's our second? You got a second in the back. Did you get that? Okay. All in favor of that motion? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
One opposed, at least? But I believe the motion carries. Okay, I would also like a motion to approve last year's minutes.
So moved, Rick Mauser.
Thank you, Mr. Mauser. Do I have a second?
Second. Okay.
Mr. Kenny? Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
That motion passes. Clerk, I'd ask the clerk to read the financial statement.
Certificate of Accounts, fiscal year March 1, 2011 through February 29, 2012. General Town Fund, cash on hand March 1, 2011, $1,169,902. Receipts, $2,191,179. Expenditures, $2,138,875. Cash on hand, February 29, 2012, $1,222,206. General Assistance, cash on hand March 1, 2011, $67,713. Receipts, $103,627. Expenditures, $115,621. Cash on hand, February 29, 2012, $55,719. Cemetery Fund, cash on hand March 1, 2011, $17,297. Receipts, $5,758. Expenditures, $7,270. Cash on hand February 29, 2012, $15,785. Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, Town Fund. Cash on hand March 1, 2011, $45,579. Receipts, $148,413. Expenditures, $124,141. Cash on hand, February 29th, 2012, $69,851. Road and Bridge Fund, cash on hand, March 1, 2011, $582,592. Receipts, $1,790,136. Expenditures, $1,859,673. Cash on hand, February 29th, 2012, $513,055. Road and Bridge Insurance Fund, cash on hand, March 1, 2011, $78,657. Receipts, $63,651. Expenditures, $66,303. Cash on hand, February 29th, 2012, $76,005. Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, Road and Bridge Fund, cash on hand, March 1, 2011, $51,494. Receipts, $87,981. Expenditures, $51,273. Cash on hand, February 29th, 2012, $88,202. Road and Bridge Social Security Fund, cash on hand, March 1, 2011, $40,360. Receipts, $79,771. Expenditures, $43,926. Cash on hand, February 29th, 2012, $76,205. Bond escrow, cash on hand, March 1, 2011, $213,234. Receipts, $85,289. Expenditures, $89,475. Cash on hand, February 29th, 2012, $209,048.
Thank you, Diane. There's no need for any resolution regarding fund transfers tonight. I'd like to ask the court to read the resolution authorizing the next annual town meeting resolution.
Downers Grove Township Resolution Annual Town Meeting. Whereas Illinois law requires that the electors at the annual town meeting fix the hour at which the township meeting shall be held. Therefore be it resolved that the next annual town meeting shall begin at 7:30 p.m. on the third Thursday of April, which will be April 16th due to the election on April 9th, unless the observance of Passover occurs that week, at which point the town board may decide on the fourth Tuesday of April 2013.
Thank you, Diane. Procedure requires us to vote to approve the next meeting date. So I'd like a motion to approve April 16, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time as the meeting date for the next annual meeting.
So moved. Chris West.
Motion here,
Second, Dave Kahana.
second here. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Now we ask any elector who would like to address himself or herself on the subject of any meeting. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Laura Regal. I would like an explanation for the reason for every year that the township is taking and doing a passage of fund transfers from the general fund to the IMRF fund, with appropriations from the tax revenues being a percentage of each fund that should be going to those funds. So I don't understand why every year the IMRF fund is short and we're moving money from the general fund over to the IMRF.
Okay, I don't believe that happened this year, but can we get an explanation generally as to why that happens?
Well, IMRF is mandated. It's an unfunded mandate, so that's why we transfer the funds. This year there was no increase, so we didn't have to transfer any funds.
Okay, I'm just looking at the agenda item, passage of funds transfer from general fund to IMRF fund. So that's why I was wondering why that was on the agenda.
It wasn't necessary necessary to do that this year.
Okay, so we didn't do that at all.
We did do it.
So we're within our budget this year in all funds.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just let me give you a little perspective on that too, as an elected official in another capacity.
Generally, as to why that happens.
Well, we're IMRF mandate is an unfunded mandate, so that's why we transfer the funds. This year there was no increase, so we didn't have to transfer any funds.
I think I'm just looking at the agenda item, passage of funds transfer from general fund to IMRF fund. So that's why I was wondering why that was on the agenda.
It wasn't necessary to do that this year.
Okay, so we didn't do that at all.
We did do it.
So we're within our budget this year in all funds.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just let me give you a little perspective on that too, as an elected official in another capacity. They get strapped with the same problem that you're raising, which is a good question. This is a problem all of us should be aware of and always look to Springfield and understand the term of unfunded mandate, because that's what they do not only to this township, but to townships all around the state, to municipalities, including the village of Burr Ridge and every other village and municipality in Downers Grove Township. We have to almost every year also do a similar thing because of pension obligations and other things that are foisted upon our local residents and our local bodies that have to make these transfers, and we're given no funds to do this with and no revenue from Springfield to do it. So they pass rules down there that allow them to put these obligations on us without any revenue stream. So this year this township has been lucky. Most villages and others are not so lucky, and it happens year in and year out. And we need to be good citizens of this state and watch Springfield and stop them. No more unfunded mandates. I'm just telling you from my perspective. Okay, we're here for governmental purposes. This is pure democracy, as I said before. Anybody else that would like to address the assembly?
Seems to me that there's some work that the township is done. The same thing is done by the county, same thing is done by the local governments. Has any consideration been given towards taking those duplicative efforts from the standpoint of economies of scale and saving money that way? Another issue that has called my attention is that certain positions in the government, for example, trustees and members of the boards of education, they serve in those positions without any money, yet our trustees get amply rewarded for the work they perform. Could you please address those questions?
I can give you my opinion, but does anybody that sits up here wish to address that?
I will say one thing, that I know of no duplication of services in our township that are carried on by anybody else. The assessing is not carried on by anyone else. The highway department, there's no one else that does that. In fact, oftentimes the county will contract with the township to do their road services. There are no human services being duplicated for our area. So I don't know what duplication you're speaking of.
For example, with the road services, if the county's performing road services and the townships are performing road services, couldn't that be done by one body as opposed to having two bodies doing that?
My personal belief is it should be done by the townships because they're closest to the roads in their area instead of taking equipment from a central location and going 6 to 10 miles out. But that's just my personal opinion.
So they could replace the county then. We could save money that way.
I don't know.
But has any study been done on that?
There's the Wendell Cox Township study. I don't know if you looked up. That's a pretty good study to do. We do it for actually less per mile than the county can. And if you were going to have the county take over, they'd have to buy a whole new fleet of trucks. We can't get six-wheelers and things like that in some of our cul-de-sacs. We wouldn't be able to plow a lot of our side streets with equipment that they have.
What about the issue of salaries of trustees that become of the township? Should those salaries, I look at the members of the board of the school boards, which is certainly a very tough position in which they serve for nothing. Why should our township people be paid, the trustees?
I can give you my opinion, but does anybody that sits up here wish to address that?
I will say one thing, that I know of no duplication of services through our township that are carried on by anybody else. The assessing is not carried on by anyone else. The highway department, there's no one else that does that. In fact, oftentimes the county will contract with the township to do their road services. There are no human services being duplicated for our area, so I don't know what duplication you're speaking of.
For example, with the road services, if the county's performing road services and the townships are performing road services, couldn't that be done by one body as opposed to having two bodies doing that?
My personal belief is it should be done by the townships because they're closest to the roads in their area instead of taking equipment from a central location and going 6 to 10 miles out. But that's just my personal opinion.
So they could replace the county then, we could save money that way.
I don't know.
But has any study been done on that?
There's the Wendell Cox Township study. That's a pretty good study. We do it for actually less per mile than the county can. And if you were going to have the county take over, they'd have to buy a whole new fleet of trucks. You can't get 6-wheelers and things like that, some of our cul-de-sacs. You wouldn't be able to plow a lot of our side streets with equipment today.
What about the issue of salaries of trustees that become of the township? Should those salaries, I look at the members of the board of school boards, which is certainly a very tough position in which they serve for nothing. Why should our township be paying the trustees?
It's always been a tradition of government to compensate those elected officials. I think there's always, Mr. Peterson, I think it's always a good question to ask if you're getting your money's worth from these people. I think when you look at the cost of government, it isn't in the salaries of trustees or elected officials necessarily. It is in unfunded mandates, it is in workmen's compensation rules, it is in what I consider to be poor working models for the state of Illinois. It is for a lot of projects where your property taxes go to wasteful things in school board administration and government. And it isn't in compensation to trustees, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But it certainly is something that needs to be looked at, just as consolidation needs to be looked at now, because we are getting very tight when we get into these unfunded mandates and other things. We have less and less revenue at our disposal. That necessarily makes us look for consolidation. As a municipal leader, I've asked the same questions of the township, a little bit in reverse. I've asked the townships, who are all known to be expert in highway maintenance and road conditions, and maybe they can do a better job than my village can or some others, maybe better than the county can, and we need to look at that. At the same time, I think there are some things, for example, our municipalities can do.
Order.
Yes?
I believe the question was asked of the township officials.
Okay. Just let me finish, and I'll let anybody
Are you
speak.
speaking as a citizen? Because
I am.
if so, I believe that your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, okay. Then let me wind up and I will finish. I'll give you the same courtesy. And I think we're looking at consolidation. I'm speaking as a resident and a citizen, but I'm also an elected official. I'm trying to give you here as an assembled body my perspective. But I'm certainly open the floor to anybody, yourself, which you're free to comment, or anybody up here.
Just one last question. As a citizen, what do we do to trigger some of these studies? Do we just contact Mr. Wurtzer, or who do we get in touch with as citizens?
I will tell you, but my 3 minutes is up right now, so I'll hear from somebody else.
So you're actually speaking to the board right now.
We should address those questions.
As a citizen right now.
Yeah.
But that's probably.
So we address those questions in writing to the board?
Well, frankly, I think you have. I think you've spoken.
Okay, well, then the board will answer those, hopefully, in the next meeting.
And the board will have an opportunity to set salaries when they're leaving their term for the next board that comes on. That's how it's done by statute.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Anyone else who would like to address?
Hi, my name is Mark Garrity. I live in Downers Grove, and keeping on the same subject, or the same two subjects, I guess, what would be wrong with having the county actually take over the township highway departments and using them as satellite areas? And with all due respect, Andy, we wouldn't have to pay such high salaries if the township or if the county was doing this. They could take over your depots, they could take over your vehicles. You guys could still be doing the same work, but I think we'd get some cost savings there. The other part is we're now paying trustees, what is it now, $6,000 or $7,000 a year, I guess, and about $1,500 for health insurance too. You know, correct me if I'm wrong on those figures, and I address this to the whole board. But if you look at District 99 School Board, Downers Grove South and North High School School Board, those people meet only once a month too, I guess, and they seem to have a lot more work and get a lot more attention, positive and negative, than with their $75 million budget, than the, what is it, $5 or $6 million budget you have here. Now, you cut your schedule down from meeting twice a month to meeting once a month. How about in September, when you set the new salary structure for the next 2 years, starting the next spring, if I remember correctly, that you actually go ahead and cut your salaries in half. You only meet half the time now. Don't you think that's a good idea?
A couple of corrections. When we set the salaries, it's for a 4-year term, not 2 years.
Okay.
And the trustees at the present time are not receiving any medical benefits.
Now, I understand you're not supposed to be, but I also understand that you're getting like $1,500 where you're getting your health benefits paid for. The trustees are getting like $1,500 a year towards, what is it, Medicare Advantage or something? None whatsoever. Okay. Well, that's good. And then how about the salaries? What is that now?
Salaries are $6,000 annually.
$6,000.
That's it.
So now that you meet half the time, but once again, don't you think you can cut that in half?
But certainly when we meet to set the salaries, we certainly consider it. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just have a comment that they might meet only half the time, and part of that reason was to save the expense of keeping the building open, lights and heat and all that for an additional night each month. But that doesn't mean they're doing less work. They have just as much work to do, but they only do it once a month instead of twice a month.
What duties do you perform when you're not at these meetings? Because I've been to a lot of these meetings.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to, but, we have the 3-minute
Okay.
lady here, so,
You don't want to know what they do.
And you, of course, welcome to come to any meetings, you can ask the same question.
I've been to lots of them.
Okay, good. Anybody else that would like to address the assembly?
I would. My name is Alex Leventis. I'm a former employee of the Illinois State Toll Highway Authority. Commissioner Anderson, damn good job. Understanding the concept of snow plowing, being a snowbird, maintaining a highway of 90 miles, good job. I was responsible for a large section, actually the entire section of 355 until I transferred up to I-90. It was a big task. I understand what you're going through. With your budget, I'm very surprised you were doing it at that dollar amount. It should be higher. But I live in this township and I think you're doing a good job. To the commissioners, I've done my own little homework. I understand your pay. Nothing against what you said, Mr. Garrity.
like some school teachers, I believe, your service is underpaid. Thank you also.
Thank you.
sir.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
Paul Kraft.
Can you come to the microphone so I can...
I can speak loud.
Try to help.
I don't have a lot to say. Regardless of when you set the salaries, couldn't you voluntarily, individually, just decline to accept the salaries? If you know that you only meet for, like 15 minutes every meeting, and that's all, and you're getting all that money for all that, could you just, out of your own consciousness, just decline it?
Yes.
Move to terminate the brilliant speeches.
I second
How about just get an answer for this?
Point of order.
Yes, ma'am.
Open forum for items on the agenda, and I think it's inappropriate to close the meeting before the agenda has been completed.
I believe we're at that open forum right now, ma'am.
Yes, we are.
There's a motion and a second.
Could they answer my question?
I'd like to answer your
Sure,
question.
I think she'll answer your question.
I have, through the years, declined or tried to decline portions of my salary, the salary increases. I have done that a couple of times. This last time, I was informed that legally, I can't do that. Once it's set by the township trustees, that's it. I cannot decline my salary.
So you could have donated it to
No.
charity.
I just want you to understand that it is under statute.
Okay, that's...
I'd like to say
Yes,
one thing.
sure. Sure, Frank, go ahead.
About the salaries, we're very much aware of the salaries and how we're spending our taxpayer dollars. For example, when we set the salaries the last time, we decreased the supervisor's salary, my salary, by $60,000 over a 4-year term. I thought that was appropriate. And we do, just want you to know, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but we do take a look at salaries and how much we work and what the value is. And before we close, I'd like to say one more thing. Rita Carlson has resigned, accepted her resignation at the last board meeting, and that'll be effective May 3rd. And I'd like to thank her for great service that she's given the township. Thank you, Rita.
We do have a motion and a second to essentially close the public speaking. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? No. We close the public. The next thing on the agenda, since there's no more items on the agenda, the next item is to adjourn. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.